Hey, Bernie, you know who's really going to appreciate this song? Our program director, Dave Labrosi. Believe it or not, he actually got this young lady, Rachel, her first label for this song when he was a program director at a music station back in Pittsburgh. And, of course, I had the fortunate opportunity last year to go to Pink Runway, which I'll be going to again this year, Wednesday night, November the 13th at the Marquee. And when all the lovely ladies hit the runway, it's an unbelievable night. This is the song that they play. And this song has become kind of synonymous with the real fight, the ultimate fight, the one that, thank God, this lovely lady to my left and Bernie's right has won, and she thrives today. Look at the studio right now, Bernie. We've got Michael Brincott, we've got Heshy Orgenbaum, Dr. Patrick Borgen.
I mean, I'm telling you, we got the stars.
Stars, and the lovely Stephanie Seban, who is a breast cancer survivor. Hey, folks, we decided to make this our Breast Cancer Awareness Hour because Bernie and I love all of you, and this is something that has hit home for both of us, just basically everybody. I love the story, Patrick, of how Stephanie found you through a doctor named Dr. Wang when she decided to go for Chinese medicine after she was diagnosed and went through hell for 5 years. The way she found you is an amazing story and really saved her life.
I think so. Good morning, Sid. Bernie.
Good morning, Dr.
Thank you
Patrick.
so much for shining a spotlight on this terrible problem that we have in this country. And I think the story is best told by Stephanie. It's an amazing story of a misdiagnosis and hard-headed doctors that clung to what they believed to be true against all evidence. Their treatments weren't working. In desperation, Stephanie saw a traditional Chinese medicine
Before you
specialist.
get to the Chinese medicine, not only was it not working, but they basically told her, go home and die.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's unbelievable in this day and age. And Stephanie, can you take the story up there?
Sure. Well, good morning, and thank you so much for having me. My story is kind of a long, crazy one with lots of twists and turns. So for the sake of this morning, I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. But being from Los Angeles, I was diagnosed at age 31. At the time, I was diagnosed as being stage 4 pretty immediately because I already had metastasized to my bones. So after that happened, I moved to New York to come be treated at a prestigious hospital here. And breast cancer is very complicated. There are several kinds of breast cancer. So at the time, I was diagnosed as being estrogen positive and HER2 positive, which requires a very specific protocol of treatment. So when I arrived to New York, I was put on chemotherapy and a very regimen treatment specific to the HER2 diagnosis. So every 3 weeks, I'd be in for treatment. I was hooked up to an IV of a cocktail of Herceptin and Perjeta, in addition to hormonal blockers to stop the estrogen from fueling the cancer. And at the time of my diagnosis, I was given a 1 in 5 women with my diagnosis would live to see 5 years. And I also had a 15% chance of going into remission, which, obviously the odds were not in my favor. And this was heart-wrenching, especially at just 31 years old. Like, your life is just getting started.
That's what you said to the doctor, too. You said, wait a second, I'm only 30 years old.
Yeah.
This can't be right.
I mean, it still is surreal when I talk about it. It's like a bad nightmare. But, you kind of get thrown into this world, thrust into this world like so suddenly, you kind of just have to start jumping through the hoops. And that's what I did. So I was doing all of the prescribed treatments. In addition, I strongly believe in the perfect marriage between Eastern and Western medicine. So I was looking into things that I could do to boost my immunity and my immune system. So I was doing my treatments for about 4 years. And when you have a stage 4 diagnosis, stable scans are good scans. You want stable disease as opposed to progression. So I would get scanned tri-monthly every 3 months, and everything was pretty smooth sailing. I would have little progression, little regression, which is kind of, like I said, good news with the stage 4 diagnosis. And about 4.5 years into my diagnosis, another lump started to grow in the same breast where it was initially removed with 3 lumpectomies. And this mass was growing really quickly and really aggressively. It was inflammatory, so meaning it was protruding from my skin. And at the time, the oncologist that I was seeing started to give me specific treatments again to HER2 diagnosis. And I was on all the new latest, greatest treatments. There was a drug called TDM1, CMF, which is another chemotherapy, and nothing was working. So during this, I kept going back, and she just at one point told me, "I'm so sorry, Stephanie, my treatments aren't working, and there's really nothing that we could do for you." So,
by the way, Stephanie Seban is a model by trade.
Oh, God.
And just to interject, at this stage, how was your mental state when you're getting all these differing diagnoses and not very optimistic prognosis?
Right. In hindsight, I think when you're in the moment, or when it's actually happening, for me at least, it was like that fight or flight mode. So I was just very, I have to do something. I'm not going to go home and succumb to this disease. I'm not going to die. I'm not ready to die. Something much bigger than myself gave me this boost of confidence. But I think it wasn't until after that I kind of suffered the post-trauma of everything that I have heard or everything that I've been through. So when I was sent home to pass is when I was given a book. It's called Radical Remission by Dr. Kelly Turner, and she essentially used to work in the field of oncology. She sent a patient home to die. 5 years later, she sees the patient alive and well and asks all her colleagues, "Have you ever seen a case of radical remission?" They all said yes, and she asked if it had been recorded in a medical journal, and the answer was no. So she kind of made it her life mission to see what are all these outliers doing to overcome their diagnosis. Right. So I read the book, and that's when Chinese medicine really stuck out to me. I sought a doctor. I found Dr. Wong, started taking his herbs, and that's when he kept telling me, "You have to get to Maimonides to see Dr. Patrick Borgen." So at this point, it's like, what do I have to lose?
Right.
So after a couple times of him nudging me to go see Dr. Borgen is when I made the appointment. And it was in my first consultation with Dr. Borgen. And, mind you, I'm showing up to his office like a sick puppy dog, basically sent home to die in the worst shape. And after hearing my circumstances and everything that I had endured, the first thing he asked me was, "Has this new mass been biopsied?" And I said no. And he asked me why, and I didn't know why. So then he explained to me that cancer can mutate or change, so maybe this new mass is a different diagnosis.
Gave you some hope.
Yes. Not only did he give me hope, he told me that he believed 10,000% that we were going to beat this.
Wow.
And that, to me, was honestly the most life-changing thing that anyone has ever told me.
And you have been now going on about 5 yewith you've been clean, right? You've been healthy. You've been good. Is it 4 years, 5 years? How long?
It's been 9 years.
9 years.
And I'm still with metastatic disease, there's no light at the end of the tunnel, so I'm still very much on treatment.
Right.
Yeah.
But you're going to survive. Stephanie Seban, once again, model by trade, as Bernie pointed out.
And by the way, we're still working today with Rihanna, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Rihanna? Is that right?
Yeah, we did a campaign for Savage X Fenty, which is her lingerie line. We did that actually back in April, and it came out for October Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So we did a campaign for Savage X Thrivers to highlight young women who are living with metastatic disease.
Awesome. I will say this, Dr. Borgen, I've had the fortunate opportunity to visit the cancer center. I've even been to the pediatric cancer unit, which was devastating.
Very difficult.
Very. But I've seen it all. You've taken me into your radiology department. I've seen the newest, I don't want to call them x-rays. I guess, what would you call that when they view exactly what's going on inside?
Sure, all of the technology, 3D mammography, MRI, high-resolution ultrasound.
And you guys are the only ones that have it. I think there's this common misconception that when you come to New York City, you got to go to Columbia Presbyterian, you got to go to Cornell. As far as I know, you have stuff at Maimonides Hospital in Brooklyn that nobody has.
Yeah,
nobody.
That's definitely true, Sid. We've got one of the only ways to biopsy non-palpable lesions in the breast, eliminating surgery in about 80% of women. But going back to Stephanie's story, when a cancer is progressing on the best treatments in the world, there are two possibilities. One is that it's a really bad breast cancer, and the other is that the doctor's got it wrong. And the hardest thing in the world is for the doctor to say, you know what, I may have this wrong. And I think that's what happened in this story. The doctor, who is very good and famous, said, there's no way I can have this wrong. So Stephanie, go home and get your affairs in order. And we just questioned everything. We just said, well, wait, what if we have it wrong? What if the medical profession has it wrong? Do you want to take the story?
Well, wait, let's hold right there, because Bernie and I want to find out exactly when you figured out that this last doctor, in fact, had it wrong. We will continue with Dr. Patrick Borgen and Stephanie Seban on this Breast Cancer Awareness Hour, only right here with Bernie and Sid. Back here on Bernie and Sid, and again, this is Breast Cancer Awareness Hour. Eventually, we're going to talk to Matt Meany's mom. She's a winner, and she's in the studio behind us. But we want to continue the conversation with Dr. Patrick Borgen of Maimonides Medical Center in Brooklyn, and Stephanie Seban, who is doing real well now for about 9 years. Now, last we left off, you had gotten this diagnosis from your doctor in Los Angeles where they misdiagnosed you. Basically said, go home and die, which just sounds awful. Then you went to this Chinese medicine doctor, Dr. Wang. He introduced you to Patrick Borgen. And Borgen gave you hope right away, Stephanie, when he said, listen, there's a possibility here that this thing has changed the nature of the cancer. And B, that the doctor made a mistake.
Right.
And as it turns out, thank God, that was the case. Tell us about that.
Right, so it ended up being the latter. She ended up making a mistake. So it turned out that after a biopsy that Dr. Borgen did, the cancer was never HER2 positive, and through more testing found out that from day one it was never HER2 positive. Jeez. So I was diagnosed with the wrong diagnosis, was on all of the wrong treatments for over 4.5 years with the stage 4 breast cancer diagnosis. So when Dr. Borgen gave me that news, I mean, obviously it was devastating, but at the same time, I was a little more hopeful, thinking, well, maybe the right treatment will work. So Dr. Borgen was really instrumental in getting me to a new great oncologist back in my hometown of Los Angeles. I started the right treatments. Things got really bad before they got better. The cancer ended up going to both of my lungs, totally collapsed. So I was basically on death's doorstep until the new treatment and started to work. And here I am now. That was about 4 years ago. And with the stage 4 diagnosis, like I was saying, there's really no light at the end of the tunnel. They say it's incurable. But I'm doing very well. To this day, I'm thriving, as I like to say. And, I'm living my life as normal as possible, although I still have to, go get my treatment every month and check in, and get my tri-monthly PET scans. But all to say, my story's kind of miraculous, and I wouldn't be here if it weren't for you, Dr. Borgen.
Thank you.
And Maimonides Hospital.
Yeah.
Dr. Borgen,
yes.
you are a saint. You really are. Listen, my wife, by the way, was diagnosed with LCIS herself. She's going today for her 6-month checkup, and just coincidentally. But anyway, Dr. Borgen, I swear to God, you are so impressive.
No, I appreciate it. We were tracking a drug that wound up hitting the market a little after Stephanie's diagnosis, and I was desperate to get her that drug. It turns out to be one of the most revolutionary drugs in the history of breast cancer treatment, and we were able to get Stephanie onto that, and I think it's one of the most, for her type of breast cancer, remember that this is a family of diseases, not a single disease. And you got to treat the right family member with the right drug. But this was a miraculous match with her particular cancer and this drug that we had been tracking. And she remains on it today.
Yes.
And
thriving, as she says.
Thriving. Absolutely
You'll
thriving.
be at the event on November 13th at Pink Runway. You'll be there?
I'm trying to be there. I have doctor appointments, but trying to work it out.
Okay. Now, listen, before we say goodbye to both of you guys, and Stephanie, again, you're an amazing person, courageous and beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations. I saw something in the paper today, couldn't believe it. I thought about you. That they're moving this rehab center from Washington, D.C. to Chelsea. And they put a big spoon, an autistic spoon, outside where you would cook up the heroin and the opioids. Now, I know you've got your own program, which is very important for opioids in Brooklyn. But like I said to you, if they ever put a razor blade in a mirror outside of my rehab, I never would have gone in. I mean, why would you do something like that?
You can't even make it up. If you saw that in a movie, you wouldn't really believe it.
Right.
72,000 Americans died last year of opioid overdose. 4/5 of those started with an MD prescription for painkillers that they either got addicted to or got diverted. We've developed a program at Maimonides that has eliminated completely opioids, narcotics, from surgery. So we've now treated over 1,000 consecutive patients without a single milligram of opioids.
Wow.
And this is a national challenge. Our country needs to adopt this. There are more Americans dying of opioid addiction than died at the peak of the HIV/AIDS crisis. Right. And it's not slowing down. So we've got to find ways to do surgery without narcotics. And at Maimonides, we've really we've had great success, and we challenge the rest of the country to do the same thing.
You're doing incredible things at Maimonides with breast cancer, with opioids, and even prostate cancer. I mean, just the strides that you guys make and the records that you are setting, helping people survive these things is incredible.
Thank you very much, Bernie. Brooklyn is a city of 3 million people. I was talking about my New Orleans Saints and my LSU Tigers. I grew up in Louisiana. Brooklyn has twice as many people as the state of Louisiana.
Yeah.
We are the only cancer center in a city of 3 million people.
Which is a testament to you guys, but actually kind of a sad commentary.
It is.
When you consider, and I'm a Brooklyn boy, so I'm proud of you guys. And you may have the best college football team and the best NFL team. Congratulations to you.
I'm enjoying that. Thank you.
I'm sure you are. Listen, you're both terrific. Dr. Patrick Borgen continues to save lives. Really, I mean, tremendous amount of lives every single day. And Stephanie, you're beautiful and fantastic, and we're really, really very happy for you. We really are.
Thank you for having me.
Keep talking, okay? You make a lot of people happy.
Yes.
Heshy and Michael, we love you too. We'll take a short break. We'll come back. More of this talk and Cameron Douglas with Bernie and Sid.